If I saw my biological father tomorrow, it would take every ounce of me for me to not shoot him in the face. I'm being
Yep.
dead serious. So, your parents at one point, when you were a kid, decided they didn't want you, and now you're helping your father out with a place to live.
Yep. Weird,
Wow.
isn't it?
What's up, peeps? This is Todd, and welcome back to my show. I have an incredible episode for you today because I have Garrett Ramallah from Millennial Money on. Garrett did the military route. He used the VA. He has a couple of houses. He was featured on Millennial Money, and I think even got some TV time with Barbara Corcoran, who reacted to him. So, welcome, Garrett.
Glad to be here, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. No, I saw Barbara Corcoran react to your episode, and that's big. Like Barbara Corcoran's a big deal, man. She's killing it, and the fact that she took time out of her day to watch your video and then give you props was awesome. Was that like just a huge moment for you and your friends and
Yep.
family that were watching?
Yeah, it was so funny. I got a text from a friend, and she's like, I was just like watching TV, and I did like a second take, and I'm like, wait, is that Garrett? And then she like paused it and rewinded it. I was like, yeah, it is Garrett. And then she like texted me, so that's how I found out about it. And I was like, oh wow, that's cool.
Dude, that
So
is
it was great.
awesome. Yeah, yeah, no. Well, and I think you have an awesome story, and I'll let Garrett, kind of talk about that because he'll do a better job than I will. But Garrett comes from humble beginnings. He did not grow up wealthy. Now he's making a killing in real estate. He owns a coffee company. Actually, the two of us and a few friends, we will be launching a website called Millennial Investments. That's launching. Is it January 1st? Is that when we're doing that? Like first of the year, or is it going to be a little bit later?
January 1st.
January 1st,
Hopefully, we'll
2021.
get out.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Get
We're
out of this
gonna
bad decade.
yeah, we're gonna leave 2020 behind. Garrett, myself, a few other influencers that you guys will know the names of, which I guess we'll keep it secret until we're ready to launch. But we're launching a website, basically investing strategies and just frugal hacks. Pretty much by our generation, for our generation. Of course, even if you're not in our generation, come learn, engage.
You're welcome.
It's just the term millennial, especially with investment, is just like a very hot term right now. So we're kind of taking advantage of that traction. But Garrett, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of like how you grew up, what made you want to be financially free, and how you got into real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we could go way, way, way back. But I'm from Pittsburgh. As everyone saw in the video, I'm from like a small town right outside of Pittsburgh, about 40 minutes. Super, super poor growing up. Bounced around from basically home to home. I was in the system at one point for about 5 years with my brothers and I before moving into my maternal aunt ended up getting custody of all of us, and we ended up living with her and my cousins, who my mom's sister's kids, and we grew up there and ended up graduating high school. And I I always like wanted to do something big, but I never knew what it was. And I took a personal finance class because I was like a horrible student, like growing up in high school and middle school. I didn't apply myself. I always loved learning, but I never really like applied myself. So after high school, I completely fell on my face, and I ended up working. I got a job at a car dealership, and I was there for, oh gosh, 2 weeks. Like I think I was still like technically like in the interview, and they like fired me like because I was like so timid. I was like not in the sales whatsoever. I didn't want to talk to people, and they were just like, "Hey man, you got to get out of here." So
Wow.
that was like, oh wow, 2013, like July. Actually, it was like the end of June, and then I was like, I got to get out of here because I was also in community college. I had just graduated, and I took a full course load online community college my summer semester right out of high school, and failed every single class because I didn't know the workload. So like the next day, I like went to go to like a recruiter's office for the military because I was like, I need to get out of here. And it ended up being the 4th of July. So I like walked in there and I was like, wow, they're not even open. It's the 4th of July. But then I went back and then ended up going into the military and, got to travel the world. I worked in finance, and now I live in DC and travel still go to school. I feel like I'm like a professional student, but I enjoy learning, and now we're in the real estate too.
That's awesome, man. So, okay, I have a couple of questions for you. So, just to clarify, when you say grew up in the system or you were in the system for 5 years, what does that mean? Like, what is the system for anyone who may not know, and also for my own knowledge?
Yeah, yeah. So the system is, I mean, these mostly run at a state level. So think of foster care, or like I lived with a family that wasn't my like biological family.
Got it.
There was a time where like my parents and stuff basically just said that they didn't want us, like my brothers and they had like
Jesus.
drug and alcohol problems. So we were involved with in Pennsylvania they call it child youth services, and we had like this person, it was like a caseworker that would come and visit us and make sure that we were like uh, really like growing
Hmm.
properly, like
Hmm.
making sure that we had general welfare and we were being social, etc. And then eventually my parents lost custody of us, and we all ended up moving into this other family. We didn't know any of them. It was just like a general foster parent family. They had two other kids, and we lived there for, I was 8 when it happened, and I ended up moving in with my mom's sister around 12, 13. So it was weird. I mean, I think it got me to like grow up pretty quickly,
Hmm.
because it had to like be aware of things, and we were always like on our own growing up, so we always kind of had to like fend for ourselves and figure out like, hey, what are we gonna do next? But I think it wasn't a horrible experience. I mean, there's definitely people that have it much worse, but it's just, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm sorry you went through that. I did not grow up in foster care. I do understand a little bit about my father was also drug addict, alcoholic. He was also a wife beater and a child molester. So that didn't work out great.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean that. But the thing is, I think that you and I are cut from similar cloths, and it seems that we both had the same goal, which
Hmm.
was get the hell out of whatever environment we grew up in, go out, make a shitload of money, and provide a life for our family in the future that was nothing
Hmm.
like the one we came from.
Yep.
And so when we first started talking, I don't know, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I don't even. It's been a
Yeah, it's been a
while.
while.
But
March,
I connected
April.
with you instantly because it's rare to find someone that you I could talk to you about the way I was brought up and you would get it, and
Yep.
you could talk to me about the way you came up and I would get it, and it's rare to find people like that. But now my second question is, you mentioned you were a terrible student, but don't you have like 15 degrees today? Like, you have so many degrees, man. Tell
Yep.
us about that.
Yeah, so terrible student. I'm still a terrible student. But I always, so I like, I was like super fortunate. So let's just go back to like my upbringing, right? So I like never had like really good role models. Like there were always people partying, doing drugs, drinking, and like I was like constantly surrounded by this. So I had to like figure out like, hey, I knew I didn't want that lifestyle, because it's so easy to say, hey, if you just keep going down this road, I'm gonna be, the 5 years older and in the same spot, worse off. So I have to like figure something out. And I found YouTube. I mean, as weird as that sounds, I would go on, I would watch motivational videos, I would watch speeches of people like Warren Buffett. I mean, Jeff Bezos wasn't even in the limelight back then, but like all these like people that I admired and wanted to be like, I would watch their videos constantly and constantly and constantly. And it helped provide some kind of direction for me. And I was always like intellectually curious, even though I was never really good at school. So, like one of my life goals that I always tell people is to like understand the world, and that's like so vague for a reason. I just want to understand like how things work, why people do what they do, and just it helps me, like from a personal satisfaction standpoint. And yeah, I mean, formal schooling also works for me. So like even though, well, I'm at a point now where I don't really need like another degree, but I always think that higher education does a great job of showing you like the gamut of kind of what's out there of things
Hmm.
that you don't know. Like I can always go and like Google like, hey, how to make $1 million with residential real estate, like something so specific, and then I can get like a step-by-step guide. But I think college really helps people get in a 4 year time frame or in a 2 year time frame or a 1 year time frame the gamut of what's out there, and then you could go and do further research. Like for example, I have a master's in finance from American University, and whenever I finished that program, it was a 1 year 30 credit master's program, and whenever I finished, I was like, wow, the financial world is huge and it
Hmm.
is so complex. And if I could like walk away with one key insight that I got from that degree program, it would be the time value of money. Like simple as that. Like some basic concept. And you could be doing like option pricing models, doing all these complex financial models. But at the end of the day, like a finance program is just to teach you about, hey, what is a dollar worth at this point in time or in that point in time under these
Hmm.
certain constraints. And if you learn that idea, it's like that's the whole degree. That's all you needed to know. But obviously, it's a little bit more complex than that. And I definitely do my research now. Like I have things that I am interested in. I didn't go work on Wall Street. I like real estate because I like the tangible aspect of it. I like the entrepreneurship aspect of it, of creating something and having someone willing and able to like pay you
Hmm.
actually go and do that. I find great satisfaction in that.
Absolutely. And in layman's terms, just for anyone who may not be familiar with the term of time value of money, the basic premise is that a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow because of its ability to earn interest. So basically, like, if you, and this is why we talk about investing early, because if you have 10 grand that you can put away today, then, it'll have so much more time to compound than if you instead get that 30 grand in 40 years. And I, not that I have a finance degree, I don't have a degree of any kind, but did I sum it up decently
Yeah,
for the?
no, I mean that's seriously it. And just even having that mentality of, hey, a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow, and that deferred satisfaction aspect. If you could put that into your decision making, you will make better decisions, like whether you think so or not. Like for example, with me, I always try to make long-term decisions, but not really like focus so much on like the details of like, hey, this title company is charging me, $1,500 for a title policy, and I know I could, spend 2 hours and get it for $1,300. It's like I'll just pay the $1,500, save the two
Right.
the 2 hours of time, and I think at the end of the day, like that concept and also the value of time, which
Hmm.
and that could be a whole nother conversation, is really, I mean, how a lot of people can really improve their decision making abilities.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that people do today is they trade their time for money. That's essentially what a job is.
Mhm.
But you and I are building assets that will pay us passively. So eventually, we won't need to trade our time for money anymore. And I think that is so huge because I do believe that time is the equalizer. It may sound cliche, but at the end of the day, time is literally all any of us have.
Yep.
And people waste time, they spend it, they kill time. This like people say, "Oh, I got 3 hours to kill." It's like, dude, time is all you have. Don't kill
Yep.
time. Make time. If you make good decisions and you have good habits, then time is working with you. Like if
Yep.
you have good habits, you're going to be better in 5 years than you are today. If you have bad habits, time is working against you because you're going to be worse off in 5 years than you are today. But now let me mention this because I think it's funny. I think you did the smartest thing anyone could do when it comes to their education. And I did the worst thing that anyone could do when it comes to education because correct me if I'm wrong, but you went to the military, so your schooling was paid for.
Mhm.
And I I paid out of pocket for my school and then I dropped out. So I took on student loans to not have a degree.
Hmm.
And you pretty much, because of your service, you got to go to school for free. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a pretty sweet deal, and I always recommend folks to look at the military because one, I think a lot of people look at the military and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go to combat, I'm going to have to like kill someone, and that's really not the case. I mean, the U.S. Department of Defense is the largest employer with the largest budget out of any organization in the entire world, and there are so many like support functions. They have public affairs people, they have legal people, they have medical staff, they have their combat roles, they have accountants like what I did. And there's so much opportunity there. And I think for a young person who is coming straight out of high school and wants a change, it's 4 years of your life. I have met so many great people. I did 13 countries. I lived overseas for 2.5 years. I was able to get a bachelor's degree completely paid for while I was on active duty, traveling to all these countries. I got to learn a lot. I got to get out of my comfort zone on a daily basis. I got to do a lot of things that I didn't want to do. Like, I was in the Marine Corps, and one thing that we used to always like make fun of is we had this thing called field day, and every single Thursday for like the junior people, so that was me right out of high school, right? We had to clean our rooms, and we did it all like in a mass, like everyone at once type thing. And that was like the worst concept for me, but it taught me to like be clean and like for physical fitness, like going out and running and having like exercise as a mindset. There's so many pros to it that I think, especially while you're in, that it's a great decision. And then after you get out, I mean, the benefits are enormous. Like I am doing my third master's degree now. Not only is it paid for, like each of the degrees, but I also get $30,000 a year tax free for a housing allowance to go to school. Like no other employee benefit exists that I know of that can give you, over the course, it's a 36-month program or benefit that you get. There's a lot of stipulations and kind of what counts there. But for all intents and purposes, you get 36 months of paid schooling. And if you add up what I have like used it for, it's like $250,000 worth of education that I was able to get just through reading and trying to apply the benefits to my particular circumstances. And I think I definitely feel like at times that it's kind of like too much of a benefit where it's like you have this mentality, right? Because it's like, well, now I'm definitely like a big taxpayer, right? So it's like I'm paying it in taxes. But what I hope to do is I'm a really big. Are you an Andrew Carnegie fan?
Oh
You
yeah.
ever like okay? So he has a piece of literature called The Gospel of Wealth, and it's like my single greatest like piece of literature ever. And the whole premise, it's like 18 pages. It's like super short, so you could like read it in an hour. But the whole premise behind it was, hey, all these people at the time, whenever he wrote it, were getting rich. I mean, they were building these industries, making massive amounts of money. They were being super cutthroat, but they were pushing society forward. He said, hey, this is all fine and dandy, but you're not really like a true innovator or pioneer or someone that should be remembered unless you give all your money away, like at the end, right? So that like whole idea of like the full circle
Mhm.
mindset has like came into my existence, right? So not only with education, like helping other people learn and elevate them, but also from like a financial sense. Now, once I amass a fortune, one of my big goals is I want a university. That's like one of my big goals is to be able
Oh,
to say, hey, I put a university here in place, whether it's like a large donation or even like a school within a school, kind of bearing the name. And I think that's really important because I'm a huge, huge advocate for education. And whether it's Google, like looking up things, reading books, doing self-study, or going to a university, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people, they think that learning is only like a short process,
Hmm.
and that you only do it for a few years after you become an adult, and then that's it. But in reality, you should continue learning, and at least if you want to stay relevant.
Absolutely. Learn every day. And I know it sounds almost hypocritical when I say it because I dropped out of school, but just because I dropped out of school doesn't mean I don't value education. And as Garrett mentioned, there are other ways to get educated if a traditional route in the university isn't necessarily your speed. I learn daily from other YouTubers, from other real estate investors. I was talking to a guy in California. He has the YouTube channel One Rental at a Time. And I have learned so much from this man, and I think he makes somewhere like $500,000 a month. He's
Yeah.
just killing it, you know? And so learning from him has been incredible. Now, I know do you have two houses or three houses? I know you have a couple.
So we're up to four. I got the
Four?
fourth. Yeah, I got the fourth one over the summer, back in June.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, so now did you use a VA, like the military loan, to get all these four houses, or how did that work?
No. So the first one kind of fell into it. So uh, whenever I went to the military, my cousin bought a home, like back in 2010. I went into the military. It was like probably 2015, 2016. My cousin wanted to move from that home to another home, right? And him and I like always wanted to get in the rental property. So we were like, hey, this is like a perfect opportunity to turn this into a rental. So basically, we came together and said, hey, we're going to turn this property into a rental. It needed a lot of renovations. So under the agreement, he basically, kept the house. I paid for all the renovations. And then like over the next 2 years, we renovated this thing by ourselves. So
Wow.
we would go over to the property. I have pictures, I could send you, like before and afters, but I didn't know anything about construction, so he taught me pretty much everything about it, like how to run electrical work, how to do plumbing, how to hang drywall, paint, all that stuff. And, it was really great finishing up that project and then being able to rent it. Like now we rent it out for $900 a month. And, it's had a tenant in it for the last, oh gosh, 2 years now, 2.5 years. So it's been great. So that was the first one. And then the second one happened whenever I got out of the military. So back in February of 2018. And that was just a one bedroom, one bath condo. I used the VA home loan for that, so didn't have to put anything out of pocket. I paid closing costs out of pocket. But with the VA home loan, you don't even have to do that. Like you could wrap that into the loan if you want to.
Wow.
But you start out with negative equity, so it's like it doesn't really make sense. But you can. So it's a great program, and about a year. Let me see. So that was February 2018. July of 2019, I ended up buying my current place, which is a two-bedroom, two-bath condo. Also used the VA home loan for that. And this is like how this happened. It shouldn't have happened. Like I got super, super lucky. And like, Todd and I were just on like a live broadcast with Queenie, right? And,
Hmm.
and we were talking about being in the game and getting lucky by just being in the game. And that was certainly what happened last year whenever I was able to get that property, because what happened was my dad's high school friend, who I met a couple times, messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, one of my good buddies is moving up to DC and like would like to have someone show him around. Do you think you could do that? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, give him my number and we'll link up. So long story short, he ended up coming up to the house. He checked out the house, and this wasn't like he wasn't gonna rent it at all. He was just coming up for me to show him around. I was like, hey, if you want, you could like stay here until you find a place. And over the next couple of weeks, we just went out, had dinner, just talked and tried to connect. And the one day I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Like finding a place? Are you running into any issues?" It's like, "This is like super expensive. Like this place is like, I'm really pricey out here. I can't really find anything." And I was like jokingly, I said, "Well, why don't you just like rent this and I'll buy like something else?" And he's like, "Are you serious? Like, I'll do that." So he did. And I was like, "Well, you kind of have to wait until I like am able to close on something." But luckily I was able to find something super quick. And I think like a month later, I ended up moving out and getting into the other place. And it was purely luck. Like I never, like it would have took the friction to be able to buy another property and get a tenant to like sit there and wait for you for a month,
Mm-hmm.
like a guaranteed tenant. Really made the possibility to get the third property much easier. And then that's where I'm at now. And I think it's a great place, great loan programs. And then back when let's see here, when COVID hit, it was like crazy because my dad was like getting ready to move from North Carolina all the way up to Pittsburgh again, like completely, make the full transition. He's getting older, so um, he wanted to move back home, and he was like looking for like places to rent, and I was like, why don't you just like let me buy a place up here and then just rent it off of me? And he was like, okay, that's fine. Because it doesn't have to go through like the security deposit process, credit check, all that stuff. And so now I ended up buying a house super cheap. It was like 50 grand, little single family home.
Awesome.
And he lives there with his girlfriend, and they pay rent on time and everything. I try to like, lay the ground rules, but then also like be flexible when he needs to be flexible. We actually did a bunch of renovations over the summer. I put about 40 some grand into it. Built 2 new garages, built a deck, built another like hangout area around back, like just summer stuff. And then I told him, I'm like, hey, being that you're renting this, I'll help make the inside a little bit nicer because it's a super old home. And it helps build equity, and then I could take the equity out of it and use it for something else.
Yeah, cash out refi. So then
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm tracking here. So you're renting this place out to your dad. So did you guys like reconcile because some shit went down when you went into the system? So how did like
Yeah.
because that is big. I'll tell you right now, that is big of you. I don't know that I would have done that. I don't know that I would have helped out. Like I'll tell you, if I saw my biological father tomorrow, it would take every ounce of me for me to not shoot him in the face. I'm being
Yep.
dead serious. So your parents at one point when you were a kid decided they didn't want you, and now you're helping your father out with a place to live.
Yep. It's weird,
Wow.
isn't it? So, so this is something that my brothers are younger than me. We're all 2 years apart. So the youngest brother just turned 21 a couple weeks ago. And they are generally, I think, okay now. So whenever we moved into my aunt, it was right, my mom's sister. We always had like some kind of contact with them. Like even if there would be like dry spells of like 6 months of like not talking to them. But the like I guess the foster care system, they try to make it a point. Well, they give the parents an opportunity to like get custody back and to be parents. And like for that 5 year period, we would do like visitations with them, go to like the park with them under the supervision of someone, and then they would have all these opportunities, and then they would also have to like show that they have a job, so that they could pass a drug test, like all this stuff to prove that they could be like fit parents. And basically at the end of the 5 years, well, like the end of the 4 years or like 3.5 years, they were like, hey, you guys can't really be fit parents, so what's the other option? And they were looking to like get us permanently placed with this foster care family. But generally, when you go into foster care, the whole goal is to not have you stay with the foster care family. It's to move you to a permanent like living
Like get
situation.
adopted somewhere.
Yeah, get adopted somewhere as quickly as possible. Like
Hmm.
get back to like a normal life as quickly as possible. So we were in like this temporary like weird phase for a while, and it was crazy. Like every summer this foster care family would go like on vacation out of state, and being that we were like wards of the court or wards of the state, we couldn't leave the state. So we ended up like for 2 weeks every single year we'd have to go and live with another family who we like didn't know, and we'd just be
Wow.
there for 2 weeks and then we'd have to move back, with this like main family. um, but basically, as we grew up, especially me, like I try not to hold grudges, and I feel like, you know, if I'm 90 years old, am I gonna regret not trying to have like some relationship with my parents? And I will say I don't really look at them as parents. It's more of like a friendship type thing. And I mean, I have like boundaries, right? So I can't trust them with certain things. Can't like, expect them to do like the parent thing to do.
Hmm.
But I've just like grown accustomed to, hey, that's just kind of how things are. My brothers, they go through phases. Like for example, right now, my middle brother is not talking to my dad, so it's like, maybe I'll grow out of it, maybe he won't. But I generally try to avoid like drama or any like family issues. I just try to like let it go and try to just make the best of things. But I sometimes I feel like it's probably easy for me to just like stand there and like point fingers. But at times I feel like I wouldn't have changed anything, because if I would have been able to just grow up like a normal life, I don't think I would have been or had the mindset that I do have today as a result of it. So if anything, I kind of feel like thankful in a sense,
Hmm.
even though that's like a really weird way of looking at it.
Hmm.
It's just, I mean, like I said before, it kind of is what it is. Can't change it. You just kind of have to move forward.
Yeah. No, well, I know the last part of what you talked about hits home. I understand the idea that had you grown up with, let's say, a more traditional childhood, you would not have the edge that you have today. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you, me, we're going to have like private jet super yacht money. But it's because we came from a situation where at one point we had nothing, and we want to get as far away from that as possible. I know when I first met you and your girlfriend, we were kind of joking but also serious, talking about yachts. like,
Yeah.
like that was a real conversation we had. But I will say, I mean, it's big of you to let that person back into your life. I probably wouldn't do it. Like, being completely honest, there is no part of me that is interested in having a relationship
Yeah.
with the person who abandoned my mom, like, and did drugs and was an abuser. Like, there's no way, like, it just wouldn't happen. So it's a blessing that you're able to sort of rekindle something with your parents. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So then I guess, a good segue would be, you know it's easy for someone to look at you, Garrett, and be like, well, of course you have houses, you're a straight dude, and you're in America, and you're all the whatever privilege someone wants to tag on you. And yet you had such a hard upbringing compared to most, I would say. So for anyone out there who may be struggling, or may be, have a belief that they can't get ahead because of whatever barrier, what would you say to those people who, who are just complaining about why life sucks but don't actually think they can do anything about it?
Yeah. So I guess I could address this in like two different ways. Like, so the first is like them thinking that they can't do anything about it. And what I would say to that is, coming from nothing, it's really easy to say like, hey, this is how things are always going to be. But it is also like the perfect situation to be in, because no matter what you do, even if you completely screw it up, you're in the same spot. Like if you make $1 million, or if you hit the lottery for $1 million or whatever, get famous overnight on TikTok, whatever, and you could blow it and then be like lose it all, right? But if you start from nothing and you understand what having nothing feels like and know that it's uncomfortable to be there, it gives you all the reason to take the boldest risks.
Hmm.
And you could go and, I mean, I've seen crazy things like people that just walk, like completely walk out of their jobs, working at KFC, whatever they're doing. And like for me, right? I was working at a car dealership. I got fired from the car dealership and I was like, I got to get out of here. And I was like, what's the quickest way out of here? I went to the military. Like
Hmm.
that was never in my game plan. And I was like, it was crazy. I'm also like a big David Goggins fan, and he was like the same way. He was, he tried to join the military and be a Navy SEAL, and it didn't really work out. And then he got out and ended up spraying for cockroaches. He has like this really famous story where he's like real fat and just not doing anything. And then he's like, this has to change. And he
Hmm.
like understands that, all you need to do is just, it's crazy how one thing can just alter the course of your future. And, I really encourage people to just take the risk. I mean, what do you really have to lose? Like at all, really. I mean, you'll be right back in the same situation that you were when you started.
Certainly. Yeah. No, when I first got into real estate, I was 23. It was buying a house with my girlfriend. We're married now, but
Yeah,
people were like, this is so risky. You're buying in an interesting area because it wasn't like Seattle proper, it was on the outskirts. And people had so many negative things to say. And people were like, oh, you sure you want to take on that much risk? Why aren't you more scared? Dude, that decision, like between our rental income and our just appreciation, we've made like 3 million bucks over the last, I think, 4 years. And it's because we took a risk, right? And we just jumped in. And it turned out, my life would be so different if I didn't buy that first house, because that first deal is what made me want to do real estate and maybe want to invest. And I know you're up to 4 houses now too. And yeah, I think you're right. I think the fear of failure, if you can push that out of your mind, it is in a weird way, it is a benefit if you know what nothing tastes like. Like if you know what desperation and you don't, you know what it's like to not have anything and to not have resources. In a way, in a weird, strange way, it gives you an edge because you have nothing to lose. You just
yeah,
go for it, because if you hit rock bottom, you're in the exact same spot and you know what that is already. So I think that is pretty big.
yeah. And even like, I mean, you touched on the failure aspect of like being afraid of it, and that's like a psychological thing. I think everyone is afraid to fail at something, right? It's just like it's not like psychologically, you should be successful, right? But it's really a part of the process. Like no matter what, I fail all the time. I trip up. I still am a horrible student. I still lose money on stupid things. I still, impulse buy. I still waste time, occasionally, uh, just because I'm like, hey, I don't want to do anything right now. So there's always like those situations that you're going to be in and failures that you're going to run into. And I think generally long term, all you need to do is figure out how you could deal with that failure, not drop all your cards, not lose everything while you're dealing with that failure, and see how quickly you could recover and just keep moving forward. Because in life, I mean, if you're banking on that one job offer, or if you're banking on that one company you're going to start, or that one offer you're going to put in on the house, you're probably going to be disappointed. And if like I'm a big statistics guy, so it's like always like I need to like maybe if I do 100 offers or if I do 100 job applications or whatever I'm doing,
Mhm.
that one of them will stick. And that generally helps you think about it a little bit better.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Garrett, this has been an awesome conversation. I don't want to hold you any longer, but this has been incredible. I always learn so much from you when we talk, and I think you have one of the most amazing stories of anyone that I've spoken to recently. because it is like I can understand coming from a place of pain and using that as motivation to make your dreams come true. Like
Yeah.
I understand that, and you understand that, and I'm so blessed to know you and have you in my life, to have somebody else that gets it. Like something that we met in Chicago, and something that I think you said it, and you just all you said was, I'm doing everything I'm doing, I'm working these crazy hours, I'm investing this money because I want the good life. And I remember you said that, and you didn't have to say anything else other than that, because I understood immediately. I know what you mean by that. And I think people listening know what you mean by that too. If they've come from pain, if they've come from struggle, we want the good life, and that's
Yeah.
what we're working towards. You want to provide it for your family. So do you have any parting words for the wonderful people of YouTube before we head out today?
You know, all the classic ones. Definitely like, comment, subscribe on Todd's channel.
That's
He
right.
puts out incredible content. Be on the lookout for Millennial Investments. We're going to put this website together to give more value to you guys in different ways, where you could read it, you could watch it. Soon we're going to have it to where you could download it. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Stay connected, and never be afraid to like ask for help too. I think that if you can get used to asking questions and trying to be the dumb person in the room, in reality, you're going to learn like a lot more.
Mhm.
And if you like, Todd and I always talk about like how lonely it is trying to find people who are on the same wavelengths as us and that have been through similar experiences. Go out, find those people, try to connect with them, especially if they're doing better than you, or if they're perceived to be doing better than you. Reach out to them, because chances are, if they are doing better than you, they're going to reach out and lend some kind of helping hand. They're going to sit down with you. They may have coffee with you. They may point you to a resource. And if you keep doing this and keep doing this year after year and month after month, you're going to get somewhere, and you're going to get lucky one of these days, and you're going to achieve your goals, and you're going to be in an upward spiral.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and we should do another one of these soon. I think a lot
Yep.
of the people listening are going to get some value from it. So thank you again for coming on, and thank you guys all for watching.
Thanks. Appreciate it.